When you look at CF Montreal, do you like the work that they've done? And do you feel that they've done enough to scrape off of the bottom floor? Because last season was an absolute disaster to start. They don't have as long of a road trip to start the season. I think it's only six this time.
Yeah.
So starting away should be a little easier.
Yeah, for Montreal, I mentioned earlier, if TFC and Montreal combined, I would like their teams, because for TFC, I look at a lack of depth maybe, even though they've been swinging big. Montreal has actually done a quietly good job of getting guys that I like who've played around MLS that bolster their depth, and all of a sudden, like at some positions, they've got some decent players. They just don't have the top end talent. So that's why I'm like, if you had an approach where Montreal, you're out here building the bottom of your roster, getting your depth, and then TFC's approach of getting the bigger names, and you combine it together, I think that would make a heck of a team. Because yeah, it's like you look at the back of Brian Vera. He's a guy who knows MLS. He's done well with RSL. The one I really like is Dan Digger Thorolson. He was really good at Orlando for my money. Really good right back and play in the midfield. Tomas Aviles, an MLS Cup winner with Miami. All of a sudden, hopefully you can get a healthy Jalen Neal, Luca Petrasso, Bode Hidalgo, Efrain Morales, David Bugay. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of players for 4 defensive positions. And then you move up the pitch and, okay, maybe it's a little thinner, but Matt Longstaff, we saw was an acquisition. It gives him a bit more of a solid veteran contributor. Victor Laturi took big strides. Hopefully Samuel Piet is healthy. You move up the pitch. Olgar Escobar is someone who has a lot of potential. We saw it firsthand at the Gold Cup with Guatemala, and a lot of attackers there. Of course, Prince Owusu is the big one, but Daniel Rios was frustrating at the Whitecaps, but he was serviceable. Gives them a bit of a different option. Wiki Carmona gets brought over from the Red Bulls. Ivan Jaime, the 1 DP on the roster, has potential to be big. Like, I'm looking at it, this is a team that should be deep enough to be competitive in every game the play is. The problem is, I'm looking across those names. Owusu and Jaime are your only 2 like difference makers, and even then, you can argue if they're on a certain level of as other difference makers, even just among the Canadian teams. It's not are they in the same school of a Muller, of a Gauld, of a White, of Mihailovic? You can have questions about that. So with Montreal, it's in a weird place. So I think they'll be competitive this year. I just don't know how many games they'll be able to win, because it's one thing to be able to have close games. In MLS, everyone seems to have difference makers, these DPs, and Montreal hasn't really invested in that sort of top end talent. So it leaves them in a bit of an interesting position because of that. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle all that depth, because one advantage that TFC and them will have and could affect their potential ranking is they don't have much to play for. And I just say that in the sense that it's MLS and it's Can Champ. They don't have any CONCACAF. They don't have any Leagues Cup. All they got to focus on is MLS and Can Champ. And both are going to obviously be gunning hard for Can Champ, because I think they know how important it would be to win a trophy and to find a way to dethrone the Whitecaps. TFC in particular has a huge advantage because Whitecaps and Montreal are on the other side of the bracket, so they wouldn't face them until a final. Perhaps that can help them just focus on MLS and make up, in Toronto's case, for the lack of depth, and then for Montreal, the lack of difference makers. So tough to really gauge this Montreal team. We'll see what they're able to get done this year, but feels like a big one, because if they can, succeed, get the job done, maybe in the summer, that will persuade Montreal. Oh, we built out a good team. Maybe let's put a final piece in a DP, because they're in more of that position to move like that. Like I say, to acquire a final piece, but right now they don't have that, and that will significantly affect their ceiling.